And good evening and welcome to Trail Tracker Plus. I'm alone tonight. I'm Tracy Sinclair, but of course I have a very special guest who is going to join me. He is the guy that knows all and sees all, and I'm putting a lot of pressure on you, Jordan Rodenberger. He is our sports director, and he has been following along on the trail in the Chase Plains, so getting a really bird's eye view, up close view of this race. So Jordan, typically by this point in the race, we've got our leaders out of Koyuk, they're headed to Elim. It feels typically by this point that we can tell who the winner is. This year, it does not feel like that. What do you know about that?
No, it's going to be a very fun race to the finish. Is it going to be a 1978 Dick Mackey versus Rick Swenson photo finish? Probably not, but that would be pretty darn cool for sure. And it's interesting to think about with how much ground is covered, 1,000 miles, and how much time, 10 plus days, that there are some very close finishes in the Iditarod. But over the last decade or so, most of the victories have been rather comfortable by more than an hour, sometimes even 3 or 4 hours. But looking back at some of the more recent closer finishes, 2016 Dallas edging his father Mitch CV by about 45 minutes, and then 2019 was a thriller, Pete Kaiser winning by just 12 minutes. So we may see something similar like that. That would certainly be a very fun finish, and the way these teams are trucking along the trail, it's going to be a fun finish for sure.
If I remember correctly, that year with Dallas, that was the year that he didn't realize that he'd won, that he had overtaken his father in that last stretch, and he didn't realize it.
No, exactly. And so all that can happen between last time we saw him in Union Creek to now. So we really don't know what could happen. So many different variables. So that would be very exciting to keep an eye on.
So at this point, I do what we all do at this stage, kind of an Iditarod math, and I try and calculate when we think the finish is going to happen. My most recent version is tracking from Koyuk to Nome based on last year. This was Dallas CV's run last year. It was about 34 hours from when he left Koyuk. Matt left at about 4:16 this afternoon, Matt Hall, and then Jessie Holmes left at 4:37, so less than a half an hour behind him. Do you think these this last part of the race, particularly that final 77 miles, do you think it's going to be faster because we are dealing with what could be an actual race?
That is a great point there. And one interesting note was in Unalakleet, you may often see mushers swap their sled for a little lighter one as they hit the coast, but didn't see that out of those two leaders, Matt Hall and Jessie Holmes. So they're running with those same trailer sleds there on their way here. One other thing to note is just the opportunity for these two mushers specifically in the front pack. I mean, they have been knocking on the door in recent years. Matt Hall, runner-up finish last year, and of course, Jessie Holmes, third place last year. And if there's any year for either of them to do it, it is this year without the likes of a Dallas CV in this year's race. And they both know that, and they're both going to do what they can within the limits of their team to make a strong push to the finish. And a little funny tidbit note I noticed over while doing some research is that Jessie Holmes has finished one placement behind Matt Hall each of the last 2 years. 2023, Matt Hall 4th, Jessie 5th. Last year, Hall 2nd. Jessie 3rd. So I wonder if there's any mind games going on in either of their heads, whether it's Jessie saying, man, this is the year I'm going to catch him and get ahead of him, or Matt saying, hey, I got to keep him off my tail here. And it's been wild seeing this tracker practically on top of each other at this point. So cannot wait to see how this all plays out.
Yeah, last night we kind of did a replay of the tracker over the last couple of days, and we got to see, Jessie, Matt, and of course Paige Drobny all kind of rotating spots back and forth. Real quick before I let you go, have you seen the teams how do they look? You're out on the front lines.
Yes, last we saw them was in Unalakleet last night, and both teams did make their way, just kind of sign the check-in sheet and then make their way in. But did get a chance to look at both of the teams, and it looks like both teams have their final roster, so to speak, on their final push, barring any medical concerns or anything with returning dogs. But it looks like they got their best 10 or 11 dogs that they're going to make their way to the finish here. And Polar is Jessie Holmes' lead dog, and he's been praising him throughout this whole entire race. And he was in single lead coming into Unalakleet, and he looked great. He's the man. He's leading the team, as well as Matt Hall. His main lead dog is Daya or Dia. I can't remember exactly which one it is, but I know that she hasn't been in lead much this race up until the coast. So maybe that's a little strategic back pocket secret that Matt Hall's been saving for the coast is, hey, now I'm going to put my best leader in front. So dogs look great. Mushers look great, I guess, I mean, for what you can after 10 days and 1,000 miles on the trail. So teams are looking good as we're going to get into the sea ice and the unpredictable coast here as they approach Nome.
And I lied. This is my final question.
And I don't know if you guys...
The arch. That's what I wanted to ask you really fast.
Yes,
most
yes.
people remember the last one collapsed back in April, the old one, and you've got a new one. So let's take a look at that.
Yes, that's right. It is a fresh, brand new burled arch ready to welcome in those mushers, built by former Iditarod musher Ramey Smith, which you go check out the full story by Eric Soul. You should on our website, alaskasnewssource.com. There's a little tarp over it right now, so it hasn't quite been unveiled to the public, but we do have that sneak peek. As I mentioned, they do plan to do a public unveiling at noon tomorrow here in Nome, so we'll get to see that for the first time, and then we'll actually find out who the first musher to be under this new burled arch will be, which will also be exciting. A little bit of part of history there as well.
That is amazing. And Jordan, thank you so much. I know I'm going to let you guys go because you've still got so much work to do in the next couple of days. But thank you for joining us. Jordan Rodenberger, our sports director, live with us from Nome tonight. Thanks for checking in.
You know it. Thank you, Tracy.
And there was Jordan. Let's take a quick look at our tracker and what is going on the trail these days. And as we were talking about, they are pretty close, really right on, at this distance, right on top of each other. We know that that's actually not the case, but we do have right under that blue tab, that is Holmes, and then right with him is Matt Hall. So those are the two leaders at this point on the way. They've left Koyuk. They are on their way to Elim. After that, it is White Mountain, where they will take that mandatory 8-hour rest, as all of the mushers do. And Paige Drobny is now into Koyuk as well. So we've got our top three mushers into Koyuk, and 2 of them already out of Koyuk. We're going to just keep tracking this race. As I said, I did some basic Iditarod math, and my prediction is an early Friday morning finish. But because they are racing and we've got a couple leaders very close to each other, it could be a little bit faster than that. So we'll just have to keep watch. Thank you so much for joining us tonight on Trail Tracker Plus, and we see you back here tomorrow with more.